Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Szeltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. It is truly good to have you here with us. Pope Francis appoints 50 academics as members of the Pontifical Academy for Life. Appointments include Carl Anderson, Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, and John Haas, President of the National Catholic Bioethics Center. St. John Paul II and Professor Jerome Lejeune founded the Pontifical Academy for Life in 1994 to promote the Church's consistent life ethic and to carry out research on bioethics and Catholic moral theology. But other announced picks are drawing concern and controversy. We will address that shortly. Georgia pro-lifer Karen Handel wins the most expensive House race in U.S. history. Handel was the Susan G. Komen Foundation executive who in 2012 sought to cut off support of abortion provider Planned Parenthood. Next week, we'll have more extensive coverage of what this victory means for the pro-life movement. But first, Missouri senators advance pro-life legislation to stop the state from being a, quote, sanctuary city for abortion. The bill creates new abortion regulations, including annual clinic inspections. It will also put more requirements on how fetal tissue are handled. The bill was requested by Republican Governor Eric Greitens. Marjorie Dannenfelser is president of the Susan B. Anthony List. Thank you, as always, for being here.
As always, I love it.
Thank you. So what does Governor Greitens mean by a sanctuary city for abortion? That's quite the phrase.
Wow, it's quite a script flip because it usually means immigration. In this case, they have added a pro-choice position to the anti-discrimination law in the city of St. Louis, which means that if you have a pro-abortion position, you can't be disqualified from working in a crisis pregnancy center. That if you own a building and you have space for rent, you would be required to rent that space to an abortion clinic. It's really, and it's used under anti-discrimination laws. So clearly this is a pro-discrimination law against people of conscience who simply can't about abortion.
So this pro-life legislation that just happened, this pro-life session, was this expected?
Well, no, because that has never happened. This is the first such session in the country. If there was one, many decades ago, nobody has record of it. Governor Greitens has decided that you didn't get the job done, and they're really high priority pro-life matters that must be addressed. So don't go home without doing your job. It is beautiful to see out of the state of Missouri, and we have a really important Senate race coming up in that state too, about the beautiful embrace of life that this governor has and the state has, and he's going to win.
Wow, and maybe other governors are paying attention to what's going on
Indeed, indeed. He's a fantastic example to every other governor. He's very much involved in the Republican Governors Association. It's a beautiful example, do as I do, and which is better than do as I say.
There is also another interesting part of this pro-life bill that puts requirements on how fetal tissue are handled. Why is this an increasingly important issue in the pro-life movement?
Well, I mean, over the past couple of years, it has been a very important issue with the videos that came out about Planned Parenthood, watching Planned Parenthood employees collaborate with businesses to harvest the eyes and the brain, the thymus, the heart of a child, and find a place to go sell that piece and research on that. There's a heightened awareness of the horrible, the abomination that is, what an offense that is to humanity. And so legislatures are very attuned to addressing this. So that part of this bill would make sure that an unborn child can't be a commodity, or the aborted child can't be a commodity. And so that piece of the bill would do that. It would also say that if you do abort a child and you're going to, and it's being, contracted out, then you have to give a sample of that to the authorities. Otherwise, there is going to be an investigation triggered immediately, well, within 72 hours, to find out what in fact was going on with the disposal of that baby.
A very important part of the pro-life movement. Turning now to more federal issues, there was recently a leaked draft of what's known as the contraceptive mandate, and it was an updated one that would protect pro-life Americans and their conscience rights. How much of a priority is this update in the pro-life movement?
This is an enormous priority. It was a central piece of why we opposed Obamacare in 2010 in the first place. So fixing this piece means that anybody. This rule first came down where it only protected houses of worship. This was the Obama rule, but this will add to it. This would mean that that not only would you be able to object on religious grounds as an organization, but just moral grounds. So a group like Susan B. Anthony List would not be forced to provide abortifacients to anybody that worked for us. I mean, it is really outrageous when you look at the irony of what people of conscience on abortion would be forced to do. So it's important that this happen now. That I've been working very closely with the administration on this. They have an intent to do the right thing here, but they really do need to hear from us. It really is important. And don't assume anything, meaning, look, I'm just going to be real about this. These are people that we know that work day in, day out, working very, very hard. They really need to hear from pro-life America, and especially Catholic America, about what they think.
This is a role we can play. Marjorie Dannenfelser of the Susan B. Anthony List, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
A new draft of the contraceptive mandate recently leaked online would give relief to the Little Sisters of the Poor, EWTN, and other pro-life groups. The contraceptive mandate put in place by former President Barack Obama forced organizations like these to violate their consciences by providing contraception and abortion-causing drugs in their health insurance plans. The new rules would protect these groups so they are not required to violate their conscience. But now the Trump administration needs to move forward on this update and fulfill its promise. With that, here is this week's call to action. If you believe groups like the Little Sisters of the Poor should be free to live out their faith without being forced to violate their conscience, go to your computer right now, open up your web browser and type in prolifeweekly.com. Here is how you can take action. Once you get to the website, you'll see 3 boxes to type in your first name, your last name, and your email address. When you type in that basic information, click Add My Name. That's it. By doing this, you are telling the Trump administration to move forward with new rules to give relief to the Little Sisters, EWTN, and other organizations that object to being forced to pay for contraception and abortion-inducing drugs and devices in health insurance plans. The president needs to fulfill the promise he made last month that this ordeal will soon be over. You too can support the decision to defend conscience rights of pro-life Americans. Once again, go to prolifeweekly.com to speak up for religious liberty in defense of life. Back to our top story, Archbishop Vincenzo Paglia defends the Vatican's decision to appoint an Anglican moral theologian to the Pontifical Academy for Life. Christian ethicist Nigel Bigger was quoted as saying in 2011 he would draw the line for abortion at 18 weeks of gestation. The Catholic Church upholds life begins at conception and must be defended until natural death. In an interview with Italy's La Stampa, Archbishop Paglia reaffirms the Vatican's unwavering opposition to abortion. We're joined now by Dr. Matthew Bunson for some quick analysis. He is a theologian, historian, and EWTN Senior Contributor. Matthew, thank you for being here.
Great to be with you.
So what do you make of these appointments to the Pontifical Academy for Life, especially that of Nigel Bigger?
Yeah, well, one of the things that is concerning is some of the statements of this Oxford professor in moral theology regarding when exactly it is permissible, in his view, for abortions to take place. What we've gotten, however, is a very strong statement from Archbishop Vincenzo Paglia, the president of the Pontifical Academy for Life, defending the appointments. He's pointed out, for example, that the professor in question was nominated and basically chosen by Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, in a way to be his representative of the Anglican Communion at and for the Pontifical Academy. This is also consistent, I think, the point that the Archbishop's trying to make, that the Holy See is trying to expand its universe of dialogue. It's consistent, for example, with appointments recently made to the Pontifical Academies for Social Sciences and Science of atheists and materialists, those who the Church, in the view of Pope Francis, needs to be in dialogue with in order to establish common ground and common values.
So it's been an ongoing trend. What then should pro-life Catholics make of all of this?
Yes. Well, this is an opportunity in a lot of ways for pro-life Catholics to be even more engaged in the issues, to be aware of what the work is of the Pontifical Academy for Life, and its publications. There are a couple of things that they're working on. Palliative care right now, for example. They're going to have a plenary session in the fall. Look at the publications. Look at the tenor of the documents they release and the statements they have. Archbishop Paglia has reassured all of us that the consistent ethic, the teachings of the Church will not change. It's up to us as Catholics to make sure that that is in fact true.
And we will, of course, continue to monitor this. I know you will be as well. Dr. Matthew Bunson, thank you for being here.
Great to be with you.
In more pro-life news, a study out of the UK's Lancaster University suggests a baby's instinct to recognize facial features develops before he or she has ever seen a face. Take a look at these pictures. Researchers shown dots of light arranged to look either like a human's eyes or mouth through the uterine wall of 39 expectant mothers who were 8 months pregnant. The unborn babies would turn their head towards these light arrangements, but would not react when random shapes were presented. Findings suggest an unborn baby's senses are already well developed, and parents should begin interacting with their child while he or she is still in the womb. Incredible. It is seen as a pro-life victory. Georgia's highest court on Monday rejected a challenge to the state's fetal pain bill, a law banning most abortions after 20 weeks. The decision says courts are barred from considering a lawsuit against the state without the state's consent. The 2012 fetal pain bill bans doctors from performing abortions 5 months after an egg is fertilized. The law does have exceptions, though, to protect the life and health of a mother or when doctors claim a baby has a defect so severe he or she is unlikely to live. The fetal pain bill got its name because unborn children can feel pain at 20 weeks. A judge allows a legal challenge to proceed against California's assisted suicide law. The judge says a group of doctors has provided enough information for a lawsuit over the state's 2016 law legalizing assisted suicide. The doctors claim the law violates the state's constitution by treating terminally ill people distinctly from others contemplating from taking their own lives. In the last year, since California legalized assisted suicide, at least 504 terminally ill people have requested life-ending prescriptions. With the rise of assisted suicide across the nation and the globe, treatment for the medically vulnerable is an increasingly important part of the pro-life movement. When a loved one is in need of medical care, families can face tough, confusing questions. One well-known example of this is the case of Terri Schiavo. At the age of 26, Terri experienced an unexplained collapse. While she did suffer a brain injury, Terri did not have any life-threatening disease. She was not on machines and not brain dead. And yet, after a lengthy legal battle between Terri's husband and her parents, the court sided with her husband and ordered Terri's death by starvation and dehydration. Joining us now is Terri Schiavo's brother, Bobby Schindler, the president of the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network. Bobby, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. So often when we speak about the medically vulnerable, we use the phrase end-of-life care. You say we need to be careful about using that term.
Well, it's easy to use that type of description, but they used to apply it to my sister's case, and it's disingenuous, I guess you would say, because Terri's situation was never an end-of-life type of case. It only became end-of-life when they took away her food and water through a feeding tube, which was the only thing sustaining her. But once they removed her food and hydration, she began the process of dying by death by starvation and dehydration. That's when it became a true end-of-life situation, right?
You are now focusing a lot on the right to food and water. What should pro-lifers know about this topic?
Well, I think it's really important because unbeknownst to most of the public today is food and water through a feeding tube has been reclassified as medical treatment, artificial life support, extraordinary care. It all means the same thing. So it's no longer considered basic and ordinary care. However, the Catholic Church still identifies food and hydration through a feeding tube as basic and ordinary care, but the medical community sees it as nothing different from, say, a ventilator or something extraordinary.
Even though you and I, we need food and water every single day,
right.
Every single person needs that. That's not an out-of-bounds demand.
Well, absolutely, and this was done on deliberately. I mean, they set out to change reclassification in order to make people that are living too long, give them a way of ending their life sooner than like in the case of my sister, depending on what state you live in,
Right.
it could be rather easy to either deny or withdraw food and hydration from an individual, even someone that's not dying or is not an end-of-life situation.
Well, I just think of how many people at different stages in life do need some help getting food and water.
Sure.
In the 12 years, it's been 12 years now since Terri's death, how has the medical landscape changed? Are her type of cases more or less common?
Well, unfortunately, I think something that we would have thought of as being inhumane and barbaric not that long ago, today has become ordinary.
Wow.
And I think a lot of it driving this is cost containment. It's a lot cheaper to end someone's life, like my sister and other people with brain injuries and the elderly, than it is to care for them. So I think with my sister's case, we once made the publicity that it did, we can no longer say that this doesn't happen to people anymore, meaning that perhaps before Terri's case, we didn't realize how routine it was to starve and dehydrate someone to death, but it's happening, and that's why we do what we do, Catherine. Every single day in our nation, across countless healthcare facilities, people are being starved and dehydrated to death deliberately by removing or denying their food and hydration.
Thank you for your work in doing that. And there is this increasing acceptance, both legally, but I think even culturally, of assisted suicide. How does that impact how we treat the medically vulnerable?
Right. Well, I think we're seeing the same type of theme. It's motivated by cost containment. There was a case out in Oregon not that long ago, Barbara Wagner, who was applying to the state for medicine or treatment to extend her life. She had cancer, and the state came back and denied her that treatment and instead recommended assisted suicide pills, which are very inexpensive. And we saw a case recently in California, the same type of thing. So as I said before, it's a lot easier and cheaper to end someone's life than to give them extended care. And I think, again, that's what it's driving a lot of this is in the name of saving cost containment, so to speak.
And when a family is faced with a confusing medical situation, there's a lot of questions they need to navigate through. Where can they turn? Are there any resources they can go to?
Sure. I mean, that's why we do what we do. We believe in strong advocates. We have the resources available. We intervene in cases if needed. So we want to be there for families. We want to be the organization that we couldn't find when we were going through this with our sister. And that's why we responded the way we did by forming our nonprofit to help families get through situations where, whatever it might be, with the healthcare facility or the situation where they need help, to help them protect a loved one.
So basically, how does it work if maybe if a family feels pressure from, whether it's the medical community, the courts, friends, what have you, they can just call you up?
Right. We have a crisis lifeline. They can call us, and we assess their situation. We'll get all the information, and we'll decide what kind of help they need. We have a tremendous amount of resources that we've acquired over the years, and whether it's an attorney or a doctor or whatever it might be, just maybe support emotionally or whatever it might be. So we try to be there for the family, and we've been pretty successful intervening and helping families when their loved one's been in a threat of denial of care. So we work hard to help people and advocate for them when they're not in a position to do it themselves.
I think that emotional support is so key as well. I know we've been talking about the cost benefits of maybe ending the life of a loved one, but even emotionally, it's hard for families, and the aspect of compassion and the truth that can play.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how much our medical rights are eroding, Catherine. I mean, there's more and more power being shifted into the hands of physicians and really strangers that are making treatment decisions with loved ones rather than family members. And family members, not only are they having to deal with the trauma of whatever it is that they're dealing with their loved one and why they're in the hospital, but then they have to deal with perhaps a doctor or the ethics committee at the hospital telling, look, we're not going to provide you the care that this person needs. And that's why we're there. They call us, and again, we try to help the family advocate for their family member and get them the care that they might need.
Well, thank you for your work. Bobby Schindler of the Terri Schiavo Life and Hope Network. Thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back,
it's a very violent place. There are shots every week. They don't shot very well, so.
A French priest moves to the slums of Brazil because every life is made in the image of God. Stay tuned as EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. I'm Catherine Szeltner. Halsey is a 22-year-old pop singer currently promoting her new album and now also promoting abortion across the globe in a new video. Take a listen.
On January 23, 2017, Donald Trump sat down at his desk in the White House, surrounded by a group of white men, and announced his global gag rule, a ban on funding for any international organization that anywhere in its healthcare programs provides or even discusses abortions with patients.
What Halsey is referencing is the updated executive memorandum President Trump implemented to stop U.S. taxpayer funding of the abortion industry overseas. The online video featuring the Grammy-nominated recording artist was posted by the Center for Health and Equity last week. Just to be clear, the executive order implemented by the Trump administration does not cut a single penny from U.S. aid. It simply ensures Americans' hard-earned tax dollars are used by healthcare groups to save lives, not take lives, by promoting or performing abortions. The truth is, abortion is the largest human rights violation in the world, killing an estimated 56 million lives each year. It's important we speak out against celebrities channeling their star power for this massive human rights violation. Pop singer Halsey is beautiful and talented and extremely popular in music right now. So by her using this platform of fame, she is sending misleading and dangerous information to many young women. Abortion is not healthcare. Abortion does not address underlying health issues of a woman. Abortion does not bring families out of poverty. We must do better for our brothers and sisters around the world, and celebrities would be wise to take notice. Remember, you have a role in countering today's culture of death. Follow this week's call to action. Go to prolifeweekly.com to tell President Trump to defend the conscience rights of pro-life Americans. Now for some uplifting pro-life news, take a look at this picture. It has been 20 years since this beautiful child's image became the first photograph ever to be sent out by a cell phone. The child's father, Philippe Kahn, was so excited to see his daughter Sophie come into this world that he connected his digital camera to his cell phone using audio cables from his car. Because of his ingenuity, he was able to share this image of happiness. And I can see why that proud father would want to share that picture. A child's image is beautiful. We go now to this week's pro-life focus and introduce you to a French priest who made an unexpected decision to move to the slums of Brazil, all to uphold the dignity of life of the poor. France and Brazil are separated by an ocean and a world of cultural differences. Yet Father Philippe Roche, a French priest, now finds himself living out his priestly duties among the poorest parts of the South American country.
First, I think by living with them, remaining in the place, and they told us it's the first time there are priests staying with us.
Before his move, Father Roche was pastor at the same church where 13th century Saint Ives is buried. Though Saint Ives is the patron of lawyers, he gained the title of advocate and patron of the poor because of his great charity. Father Roche says he wants to follow St. Ives' footsteps, prompting his move to Brazil's slums to live among the poor and drug traffickers.
It's a very violent place. They are shot every week. They don't shot very well.
Though violence and crime surround him, Father Roche wants young people to realize the value of their life so they don't succumb to the drug trafficking industry.
I want them to know that I am not afraid of them. We are trying to offer another perspective of life to all these people. It's possible to study, it's possible to have a job, it's possible to marry and to found a family and to have a better life.
This alternate perspective on life that Father Roche offers to the poor is in line with St. John Paul II's Gospel of Life document. It is above all the poor to whom Jesus speaks in his preaching and actions. The crowds of the sick and the outcasts who follow him and seek him out find in his words and actions a revelation of the great value of their lives and of how their hope of salvation is well-founded. Father Roche acknowledges not everyone is called to live with the poor, but we are all called to pray for others' lives and for our own.
I do believe in the power of prayer. God acts, God leads our lives.
That's it for this edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. You can reach us anytime at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com. It's always appreciated when we hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you right here again next week. Life is a gift. God bless.